This is Marion from Secret Rapture by David Hare. She actually took Tom aside and said, "Does Marion hate me? It's true. If she does, will you promise to tell me?" She asked Tom, "Really? Is this the act of a normal, well-adjusted person? Please, spare me." All my life I've had people say, "Oh, she's the nice one." Nice? I think I call that paranoid, don't you? Let's face it, we've all been through it. We've all known people we've been fond of before I was married, of course. I mean, however badly it ends, you don't just not speak to them, do you? Is that normal? Please. We've all had our hearts broken, but really, I'm sorry to say this. I wouldn't say it unless I was seriously concerned. But I think we should be considering professional help. I do. I've said it. I'm sorry. Get someone in who's experienced. These days, there's no stigma attached. As far as I'm concerned, it's like fixing a car. If it breaks, just mend it. It's all avoidable. This is Miss Fishlock from Harlequinade by Terence Rattigan.
Mr. Gosport, Miss Selby, I know you'll forgive me for interrupting you. I have important news. I got through to Mr. Wilmot and gave him your message. He was most calm, most kind, most helpful and most reassuring. He is coming down to Brackley tomorrow morning by an early train. In person. What's more, he gave me a message to pass on to you both. He says, "You're on no account to worry yourselves about this matter." He says he happens to know there can be no danger whatever of what we feared. He says it will probably be necessary for Miss Selby to sign a document saying that at the time she married you, Mr. Gosport, she was aware that you were already married. That, of course, would have the effect of making your second marriage null and void. There can therefore be no question of your having committed an offence in law. Oh, Mr. Gosport, he was so wonderfully brave.
This is Doreen from Tartuffe by Molière.
Tartuffe is now his father confessor, his spiritual advisor, and I would guess a knave who keeps the sins of the confessional close to his chest, to sell for silver when it suits him best. And yet there he is, top of the table next to his master, eating more and eating faster, belching and burping like a camel in distress. And what does Orgon say? God bless. He pampers him, dances when he calls the tunes, thinks the sun shines out of his pantaloons. One hypocrite is bad enough, but now his servant's in on the act, armed with a sermon or a biblical tract about the dangers of beauty spots, face powder and rouge. I had a gorgeous lace handkerchief made in Bruges that I kept as a bookmark in my missal, which he flung in the bin, saying, "This'll be a mortal sin," before going on to explain. To mix the worldly with the sacred is profoundly profane. The man's absurd. Like his master, insane.
This is from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll.
I don't think they play it all fairly,
Alice began, in a rather complaining tone.
And they all quarrel so dreadfully, one can't hear oneself speak. And they don't seem to have any rules in particular. At least, if there are, nobody attends to them.
"How do you like the Queen?" said the cat, in a low voice.
Not at all, said Alice. She's so extremely...
Just then, she noticed that the Queen was close behind her listening, so she went on,
likely to win, that it's hardly worth finishing the game.
The Queen smiled and passed on.
"Who are you talking to?"
said the King, coming up to Alice and looking at the cat's head with great curiosity.
"It's a friend of mine, a Cheshire cat," said Alice. "Allow me to introduce it."
This is Gwendolen, from The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde.
I am very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state that now I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age.
Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honour. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. This is Maggie, from Hobson's Choice by Harold Brighouse.
You will pay my man Will Moss at the same wages as before. And as for me, I've given you the better part of 20 years of work without wages. I'll work 8 hours a day in future, and you will pay me 15 shillings by the week. Made of brass? You'll soon be made of less than you are if you let Willie go. And if Willie goes, I go. That's what you've got to face. Huh, shop hands are cheap, are they? Cheap ones are cheap. The sort you'd have to watch all day and you'd feel happy helping them to tie up parcels and sell laces with Tudsbury, Healer and Minns supping their ale without you. I'm value to you, so's my man, and you can boast it at the Moonrakers that your daughter Maggie's made the strangest, finest match a woman's made this 50 year. And you can put your hand in your pocket and do what I propose.
This is Eliza, from Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw.
My aunt died of influenza, so they said. But it's my belief they done the old woman in. Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza when she come through diphtheria right enough the year before? I saw her with my own eyes. Fairly blue with it she was. They all thought she was dead. But my father, he kept ladling gin down her throat till she came to so sudden that she bit the bowl off the spoon. What call would a woman with that strength in her have to die of influenza? What become of her new straw hat that should have come to me? Somebody pinched it, and what I say is, them as pinched it done her in.
This is from Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Moonlight can play odd tricks upon the fancy, even upon a dreamer's fancy. As I stood there hushed and still, I could swear that the house was not an empty shell, but lived and breathed as it had before. Light came from the windows, and the curtains blew softly in the night air. And there, in the library, the door would stand half open as we had left it, with my handkerchief on the table beside the bowl of autumn roses. The room would bear witness to our presence. The little heap of library books marked ready to return and the disregarded copy of the Times. Ashtrays with the stub of a cigarette, cushions with the imprint of our heads upon them lolling in the chairs, charred embers of our log fire still smouldering against the morning. And Jasper, dear Jasper, with his soulful eyes and great sagging jowl, would be stretched upon the floor, his tail a thump when he heard his master's footsteps.